The words didn't just sting. They locked. You're not allowed in the house until you apologize. The door closed softly after that. No slam, no drama, just the quiet click of a lock turning against me. A sound so small yet heavy enough to rearrange something deep in my chest. I stood on the porch holding a grocery bag with melting ice cream, my spare key still warm in my palm. For 32 years this house had been mine. For 15 of those years I had shared it with my son. And now, at 62 years old, I was apparently a guest who had overstayed her welcome. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't knock again. I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel, and for a long moment I just breathed. By sunset, the house was no longer theirs. The house I built brick by brick. I bought the house when I was 30. A modest 2-story place with a creaky staircase and a backyard that needed more love than it got. I worked double shifts as a hospital administrator, skipped vacations, and learned how to fix leaky pipes myself because hiring help felt like a luxury. I raised my son Daniel, there alone after his father left when Daniel was 7. The house heard every version of us, laughter echoing through hallways, slammed doors during teenage fights, whispered apologies at midnight. When Daniel married Lena, I welcomed her. Truly, I gave up my master bedroom so they could have more space. I adjusted routines, bit my tongue, and told myself that families grow best when egos shrink. But egos don't always shrink. Sometimes they spread. The first boundary I ignored. It started with small things. My coffee mug moved because Lena preferred a cleaner aesthetic. My framed photos replaced with abstract art that meant nothing to me. My Sunday breakfasts interrupted because they wanted to sleep in. I told myself it was temporary, that young marriages needed room, that love meant compromise. Then came the family meetings. Lena would sit at the dining table like a manager conducting performance reviews. Daniel, once my fiercely loyal son, suddenly avoided eye contact. We just think, Lena would say carefully, that some boundaries would help. Boundaries in my own house. I nodded, smiled, agreed. That was my mistake. The apology they demanded. The breaking point came over something painfully small. I had reorganized the pantry. I'd lived there for decades, I knew where everything went. Lena, however, saw it as an invasion. You had no right, she snapped. I laughed nervously, it's just shelves. No, she said sharply, it's control. Daniel stepped in, not to calm things but to support her. Mom, you crossed a line. I stared at him, waiting for the joke. It never came. You need to apologize, Lena added. And until you do, it's best if you don't come back into the house. The house. Not your house. Not our house. The house. That's when the words landed. You're not allowed in the house until you apologize. The moment everything changed. They expected tears. They expected begging. They expected compliance. What they didn't expect was silence. I left. Not dramatically, not angrily. I drove to a quiet park and sat on a bench until the sun began to dip. I thought about every mortgage payment, every scraped knee I kissed better, every night I stayed awake worrying about bills. And something hardened, not bitter, not cruel, just clear. I wasn't being asked to apologize. I was being evicted emotionally. So I called a real estate agent. Selling the unthinkable. The agent thought I was joking. You want to list today? Yes. Your family lives there. I live there, I corrected calmly. They're staying. By evening the paperwork was moving. The house was in a desirable area. Offers came fast. I didn't inform Daniel or Lena. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was reclaiming dignity. The call that night. Daniel called around 10 p.m. Mom, where are you? I'm fine. You can't just disappear, Lena's upset. I smiled at the irony. I'm upset too, Daniel. There was a pause. Did you apologize? No. Silence stretched. Well, he said slowly, then I guess this is on you. I took a deep breath. No, I said, this is on me, but not in the way you think. when the house stopped being theirs. 2 weeks later, the sale closed. I waited until the ink was dry before telling them. We sat at the same dining table where I once taught Daniel to do homework. I sold the house, I said simply. Lena laughed. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Daniel's face drained of colour. You can't do that. I already did. Lena stood up. Where are we supposed to go? I folded my hands calmly. That's not my responsibility. For the first time, they had nothing to say. The aftermath. They called me cruel, heartless, manipulative. Extended family took sides. Some said I should have endured quietly. Others said I was brave. I moved into a smaller apartment near the sea. I drank coffee on my own balcony. I slept without tension in my chest. Daniel didn't speak to me for months. Then one evening, he showed up alone. The apology that finally came. I didn't see it, he said quietly. I thought keeping the peace meant siding with her. I nodded. Keeping the peace by sacrificing one person isn't peace. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I hugged him, but I didn't offer my home back. Some lessons must stay learned. The moral. Respect is not a favour, it's a foundation. When someone makes you earn dignity in your own space, they've already crossed a line. You don't owe apologies for existing. You don't owe silence to keep others comfortable. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying, it's letting go. Because the moment you stop begging for a place at the table is the moment you remember. You built the table in the first place.